So I think for me, learning the science made me not support abortion, you know.
The bodily rights of a woman only go so far as to not kill another human.
Just wanted to see, is anyone available for like 5-minute quick interview?
I can be.
Awesome, thank you so much. What was your name?
Herb, H-E-R-B.
Herb? Cool, thank you. I'm actually independent. I try to have conversation. We just here is great.
Are you the pro-abortion media?
So I'm totally neutral. I can. Do you mind?
Yeah. Do whatever you need.
Thank you.
Do it too.
Yeah, that should be good right there.
Cool.
So I do this thing. It's just a hobby of mine, and it's where I talk to people about their ideas and how they got to them.
Awesome.
It's sometimes really hard with all the going back and forth to listen to people.
Yeah.
So that's what I try and do.
I love that.
It's cool. Yeah. So it's street epistemology is the name of it. I'll give you a card to look
Awesome.
up. So I'm recording. I'll hopefully post to YouTube.
Yeah.
And if you don't want it up there or anything,
whatever.
that's fine.
No, I love attention. So
Cool. Awesome. So your name's Herb, you said?
Yeah.
Awesome. And what clearly you're out here for the same reason everyone else is, but I'm interested in what you feel about it.
Yeah, sure.
How are you doing?
Yeah. So a little background. My name is Herb Garrity.
Yep.
I am the executive director of Rehumanize International. We are a secular, nonpartisan organization dedicated to ending violence against human beings in all forms. And so violence against human beings at any stage of life and in all circumstances.
Okay.
And so in practice, that means that we work to end violence in the form of abortion, but also the death penalty and euthanasia and police brutality and war and all forms of violent discrimination and abuse.
Got it. So you're out here because you want to end all violence at all costs. Well, may not. I shouldn't say at all costs.
Through all nonviolent means.
Through all
I want to achieve
nonviolent means.
nonviolence.
I gotcha. So you see this overturning of Roe as a sort of a victory against violence? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the main reason you see abortion as violence?
So I myself am an atheist. I understand that people come to their opinions on abortion through lots of different means, and often religion has to do with that, I think. But for me, because I am a secular American, I believe that our laws should be based on science, not religion or simply ideology. And we know that the scientific community is at a consensus. What is formed at conception, or if you want to get technical, sperm egg fusion during fertilization, is a genetically distinct, whole, living human organism.
Okay.
And so I don't say that I believe life begins at conception. I recognize that life begins at conception. The only thing I believe is that it should be illegal to intentionally kill human beings. And that's what abortion does. If it was simply making someone not pregnant, I'd probably support it. I have no issues with people choosing to space out pregnancies or choosing to never have children or using contraceptives or anything like that. My issue is with intentionally killing human beings. And right now in this country, that's being done to over 2,000 children every single day, either through starvation, poisoning, or dismemberment.
So the abortion that is happening is immediately violence the moment conception happens.
Yeah.
And that's based on your understanding of the scientific consensus. So how did you find out about the scientific consensus?
Well, so you know what? I actually, growing up, I wasn't super politically motivated. I sort of was I had Tumblr, so I cared about social justice, and I would call myself a feminist, I guess. But it wasn't until I was sort of in high school and I was developing my own political positions and early college, where I think for me, because I kind of was vaguely liberal, vaguely feminist, to me, being pro-choice was sort of the default. And it wasn't until I needed to sort of defend that position, until I felt the need to explain why I was pro-abortion or pro-choice, that I needed to look into the science. And that's what I did. I looked into abortion. I tried to see both sides. And honestly, even when I, at the time being, pro-choice but not knowing much about the issue, looking on websites like Planned Parenthood and NARAL, even them describing abortion, I was like, whoa, that kind of sounds like you're killing a baby. And additionally for me, I found pictures of embryonic and fetal children extremely motivating and extremely impactful. Both photos of just, human development, actually seeing what a child looks like at 15 weeks, which is what this case in front of the Supreme Court is dealing with, a 15-week abortion ban. What does a child look like at 15 weeks? And also, what does an abortion look like at 15 weeks? Because when you see those images, you can see the dismembered bodies of what clearly are human children.
Was that part of what informed your decision? Because you mentioned the scientific consensus, but then also it sounds like these images you saw were a really powerful motivator for you as well. Is that?
Yeah, so I think for me, learning the science made me not support abortion. Learning the science, learning it kills a human being, made me uncomfortable with abortion, knowing that it was violence. But I think for me, I wasn't truly motivated to do something about it until I sort of saw those photos, which are emotional. And so I think it's both. I think with all issues, I think it's partially motivated by logic and partially motivated by emotion and sort of just philosophy. I think that my basic belief is that if we are to say we stand for human rights, that should apply to all human beings, and why wouldn't it, right? Think of any other group that throughout history has been denied personhood. You might have said that, well, they're a human being with distinct human DNA, but they're not a person and they don't deserve rights. And to me, I don't want to be on the side of anyone who's saying that, they're not the good guys in history. And so I'm hopeful that this decision will come down on the side of justice for the unborn, and that in 20 and 50 years, we'll see abortion, culturally across the culture, and understand it as the barbaric violence that it is.
Do you think, so I'm really interested in the how you changed from that position where you were before of pro-life, or excuse me, pro-choice, over towards the pro-life side. So when you think about the, sorry, I'm trying to think of the way I want to phrase this. Well, let me just get a scale of confidence first. So let me just get on a scale of like 0 to 100. 0 being, all questions, not sure. 100 being totally certain that abortion should be completely prohibited. Is it prohibited in all circumstances, just to clarify? Okay.
So I will just say there are potential circumstances such as ectopic pregnancies where without a shadow of a doubt, continuing the pregnancy will cause both the child and the pregnant person to die. And so, of course, in a situation like that, which is, of course, exceedingly rare, then medical intervention is absolutely needed and should not be illegal. But it's important to note that every pro-life law writes that into it. There are always those exceptions to make sure that we're valuing the pregnant person as much as we're valuing the fetus, not more or less.
If I phrased it like voluntary abortion,
elective abortion.
Elective abortion, So elective abortion that where the woman's life, the mother's life is not in jeopardy. So in that kind of situation, that should be prohibited.
Yes.
Right? Across the world?
Yes.
Potentially? Okay. So on that...
I don't know. I can't vote in other countries.
Okay,
so,
we'll stick with the United States. We're in front of the Supreme Court, so we'll stick with that. So if we stick with that claim, that statement, on a scale of 0 to 100, where do you fall in your confidence?
100. I'll say 99.
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe some science will come out to show that every study and the complete scientific consensus on this issue is wrong. Like I'm certainly open to that, but I mean, when I look at it, it's about the same numbers of scientists saying that what we have at conception is a human being who is living, or is about the same as the amount of scientists who are saying that climate change is real and man-made. It's sort of indisputable. And of course, science is never 100% certain about anything. We always need to have inquiry. But I'm not going to live my life denying climate change, and I'm not going to live my life denying the reality that abortion kills a living human being.
Okay, I got you.
So I'll give it the 99, just in case some study comes out, and we've been totally wrong about everything we know about everything about biology, right? About how cells even work and how life works. But I'm pretty confident. I would say 100.
Okay, and that was going to be kind of leading to my next question of what would move you like up or down on that scale?
Yeah, so I think the reality of life in the womb would just have to change. If we found out that we were wrong about that, then I of course would change my mind. But I really don't think we are based on what I've seen. And to be clear, when I'm talking about the science here, when I say that embryologists and biologists and scientists agree that life begins at conception, that doesn't mean that all of those scientists think that abortion should be illegal. It doesn't mean that every scientist or who studies biology is anti-abortion. I recognize that many of them support abortion, but that's where you get into that personhood argument, right? The idea that perhaps they may be a human organism, but that's not enough to make you a human being. And for me, I'm not comfortable drawing that line anywhere, because I think for most pro-choice people, it's very rare to actually support all abortion, to support abortion, elective abortion, no problems with the pregnant person, no problems with up until the moment of birth. Like that's not a reasonable position. Almost no one believes that. And so it means that most people draw the line somewhere. They look at a developing fetus and they'll say, okay, well, at 22 weeks, fetuses have been shown to be born alive and be viable and survive after birth, and so maybe 22 weeks, maybe 24 weeks, because it's more of a sure bet that they'll live after birth. And so people have to draw that line somewhere, right? Many states right now are trying to draw that line at the heartbeat, when the embryo has those cardiac cells beating in the same way that we do as adults, and So I think to have an opinion on abortion that isn't just anti-abortion in all circumstances, you need to draw the line somewhere. And for me, I think every argument I've heard is incredibly arbitrary, and often also very ableist. We're using these kind of standards of whether it's a physical, landmark or a cognitive landmark in human development that says you are now worthy of human rights.
Okay.
I totally reject that framework. I think that all human beings deserve human rights at all points in their life.
So if there was a scientific consensus that came out and said, there's a distinction here after where that line is drawn, right? What constitutes a human being that should have rights, I guess, because that's sort of where we're going. If there was a scientific consensus that came out in 6 months or something, new study or something, would that shift your confidence?
Yeah, maybe. One new study, probably not. I'd like to see some people back that up, probably.
Right.
And so again, I'm open to changing my mind. I've changed my mind on plenty of issues, including this one, throughout my life. And I'm certainly open to hearing arguments. And when I talk to pro-choice and pro-abortion people, I recognize that they are often coming from a good place. They genuinely want what is best for women and pregnant people and everyone in this country, for the most part. It's very rare that someone is just like, I want to kill babies. I think when you look at many abortionists, when you look at the abortion providers, they're doing it for profit. And I think that is when they really are pro-abortion in a way that I don't think is for the greater good. I think that they're doing it for profit, particularly the many late-term abortionists who are constantly botching these late-term abortions and have medical malpractice suits against them from women or women's families who they killed. I think that in general, most people want what is best. I don't think anyone is, for the most part, is working with ill intentions. And so when I talk to pro-choice people, I am hearing them out. I am actually interested in what they have to say when we're talking about the abortion issue. But I find often that I'm right, and I bring those pro-choice people into the pro-life movement.
Right.
Not everyone, obviously, plenty of people still are mad at me and disagree with me when I talk to them about abortion, but I often see people just, I don't really need to convince them of anything. I don't need to convince you that killing a child is wrong, right? Like, you already probably believe that, unless you're like a crazy person. And so really what I don't need to convince you of anything. I just need to show you the reality of what life is in the womb.
All right. Well, I think that's about all the questions I have. I really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
It was illuminating, and I appreciate that you can see the shared goals of both sides.
No, absolutely.
I think that's cool.
And I would also say that, if the majority decision is correct and it comes out and Roe v. Wade is finally overturned, that's not the end of the pro-life movement. In many ways, it's just the beginning, because the abortion issue will be turned back to the states. So we'll need to make sure that the right to life of every child is protected in the law across the country. But we also need to make sure that no pregnant person feels as though abortion is their only option. The fact that people feel as though they need to have an abortion because they can't afford a child, or because they already have too many children, or for any reason, but often we know the studies show that it's almost always financial concerns. That to me is a disgrace, and I would say that even pro-choice people should be against that, because that's not a real choice.
It sounds like you would like to see more support for women during pregnancy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And to me, that is whether or not abortion is legal or not. I think, I don't believe that we should, have, high quality healthcare for all Americans, because that means there will be less abortions, right? Like, I think that would be a great side effect if we had, excellent access to healthcare, which we currently don't have in this country. And so, yes, it would be great, and I think that really would reduce the number of abortions. However, I think we deserve things like healthcare and paid maternal and paternal leave, and these culture of life things that will make it easier to raise a child in this country, because they're good in themselves. Like, I think that poor people and working class people deserve, to live, lives with dignity, and I think that treating them in the way that they deserve is good, regardless of if abortion is illegal or not. And so that means,
I have one other thought. Just because you mentioned about how important preserving life is, right? And if it turned out that making abortion illegal actually resulted in more abortions, however that might happen, if that was the case, would you be in favor of legalizing it?
I think that's an interesting question. First, I'll say I really don't think that's going to be the case.
Sure.
Studies,
hypothetically,
studies really don't suggest that, especially when we look at the sort of like first world countries like the United States. I think Ireland was a great example of a country that had almost no abortions every year. They legalized it in 2018, and now there are hundreds, I think. And so I'm not confident that that's going to be the reality. But even if it was, I think it'd be a difficult conversation to have. But ultimately, I really do think that I would still oppose legal abortion, because I think that in the law, everyone's human rights should be protected. Anything else is this legalized, lethal discrimination. If you told me, I'm a member of the LGBT community. If you told me that, criminalizing hate crimes actually makes hate crimes worse, I would still say it should be illegal to assault and kill members of the LGBT community, because anything else would be lethal discrimination that the state is supporting. It'd be essentially state-sponsored violence against whether it's LGBT people or unborn people. I think that all of our rights should be protected in law, because I think if there's any purpose to the government, it should be to prohibit the killing of human beings. Like, I think, if you can be, a far-left anarchist, or you can be, a right-wing conservative, and I think we can kind of agree that if there's going to be laws, they should at least make it so that we don't kill other people. I'm willing to sign that social contract. I'm willing to give up my right to kill people if it means people aren't going to kill me, and I think that should just apply to everyone, whether they're born or unborn.
Gotcha. I really appreciate the conversation,
no problem.
Herb. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Could I get an email for you?
Yeah, sure. HERB.
What's your name, man?
Brendan. AJ, nice to meet you.
Yeah. Where you at?
I'm just independent.
Nice.
It's a hobby of mine, a YouTube channel for interviewing people on.
I love that, man. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Street epistemology.
Oh, you've heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of it actually.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, sure have. Yeah.
Do you have a few minutes to chat about what? Thank you. I appreciate that. So how did you hear about street epistemology?
Just YouTube. I've seen your guys' stuff.
Oh,
on YouTube
really?
before.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Probably Anthony Magnabosco is my guess.
Oh, okay.
He's kind of the main guy most
Yeah.
people come across,
Yeah,
but
sure.
there's a few of us, and it's changed over the few years, and it's really become about neutrally exploring people's ideas and
Sure.
how they come to them. So I see on your shirt, I'm guessing you're pro-life
Yes.
side.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Okay.
Yeah.
This is one of the questions we always ask: is what degree of confidence you have about a position. But a lot of times it's hard to just clarify what position someone has. So
Sure.
do you think you could like summarize in a tweet-sized sentence or something what your position is?
All human beings have moral intrinsic value.
Okay.
What's in the womb is human from conception. Therefore, human unborn babies, children, human unborn beings have equal rights and value
Okay. Equal rights to
any human.
To any human.
Yeah.
Got it.
Intrinsic value. Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Hold
And
come around and talk to you, Tariq.
you said you're at 100. In my mind, like, I was asking you, what does 100% mean to you?
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean,
Oh,
100%?
sorry. I was asking on a scale of like 0 to 100, how confident are you that humans from conception should all have these rights?
I'm as confident as any other human has 100% rights.
Okay.
So in other words, we shouldn't be discriminatory. If you and I have absolute human rights and value, then every other human being should have the same value.
Gotcha.
By nature of the fact that we all share humanity.
All right. So, is there? This is an odd question,
Sure.
but is there any way you could become more confident in that position?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, I guess sure. Yeah. I mean, the more evidence I have that human beings are both, I guess, scientifically and epistemologically, the more confidence, and experientially, the more data I have, the more knowledge I have as to the intrinsic, what's in the womb being intrinsically human. Therefore, the more confidence I have in
Right. That they should have those same
equal rights. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And
so the onus is on the other person in the light of what science and biology says about what's in the womb. The onus is on the other side to describe why certain classes of humans don't have rights and value, and that we can basically end their lives.
you see the burden is on the other side to explain why they wouldn't have rights, to remove
Sure.
those rights,
Yeah.
because you see that as
Sure.
sort of established that
Yeah.
there are humans in the womb from conception.
Yep.
Okay. Let's say that in reality that maybe you were wrong about this. Not saying that you are, but
Sure.
but if you were wrong about this idea that humans really should have these rights right from conception,
Yeah.
how do you think you would find out? Or what would you...
I would have to be proven that what's in the womb is either not alive or not human.
Okay, not
Yeah.
alive or not
or
human.
distinctly human.
Right. Distinctly human?
Yeah,
What-
yeah. So it's not. So I could understand an argument of like a bodily autonomy argument, provided that what's in the womb is the same body of the individual, but a biologically distinct human being is at play, right? So therefore,
Yeah.
the bodily rights of a woman only go so far as to not kill another human being.
So for you, it's like, where do you draw that line of where the mother stops and the
Yeah, sure.
child begins?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
when is that a separate entity?
Yes, and biologically speaking, there isn't an embryology textbook in existence that doesn't state the clear fact that the process of human development begins at fertilization.
And so you mentioned bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering about how you view people who might disagree with you.
Sure.
What do you think their arguments are?
Yeah, sure. I don't think they're cogent arguments, but I think the strongest of their arguments would be like a bodily autonomy argument.
Okay.
They're basically that what's in the womb is in my body, therefore I should be able to remove that individual.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in a hypothetical situation, you may have heard this one before, but if someone were reliant on someone else's body to survive, do you view that as a situation that person who's being relied upon has a requirement, like a requirement to maintain that relationship? They can't sever it.
Well, it depends. So, like,
Okay.
For instance, if somebody's on life support, right? I can't, just because they're on life support and depending upon another individual, I can't go slit that person's throat, right? So, so there's a difference between. There's a difference between. So I used to work in the medical field, and when we put I put patients on ventilators, and sometimes in end of life scenario, there was a determination made as to like the distinction between saving someone's life and prolonging their death, right? So withdrawing life support from somebody who has no chance of living, basically, is a very different thing than categorically going in and then dismembering them. So, so there's a difference between removing support that we have for somebody who can't sustain life, that have, because there's no chance of them living, and then very different thing between actually what's in the womb is, first of all, the act of another individual put that child there. They created that life, so therefore they're morally responsible for the life they create. And then also, the period of time where they are required around this other person for their life is a very consistent and dependable period of time in which they would no longer be required to take care of that child.
Okay.
So in other words, if I was unconscious on a ventilator, knowing that for sure in 9 months, I would come out of the ventilator and be
fine.
Right? It wouldn't, it wouldn't be morally permissible to intentionally kill the life of that person.
So, in the situation of the ventilator example, if there's a terminal diagnosis, right, you know that this person's going to die, then it's okay to take them off to like minimize suffering or something like that.
Well, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay to withdraw care if there's no chance of them surviving. Sure.
Okay. So I'm wondering, is there an analog in the womb? Could there be an analog in the womb of? Sorry, I know there's a lot of noise around here.
It's okay.
But do you see it? Is there any analog in the womb where, let's say, there was a terminal diagnosis for the unborn baby? Would that be an okay situation to remove support?
No, because what abortion is purposefully dismembering an individual. So like that's the difference between withdrawing life-giving care and purposely going in and dismembering. So
When you say dismember,
Yeah.
you mean like, what do you mean by that?
abortion. I mean that's
Okay.
that's what abortion is. So there's a few different types of abortion. There's chemical abortion, and then after later term abortion, there's D&E, there's a DNC, and then there's labor induction abortions. So abortion is the intentional killing of a innocent person, human being.
Okay.
You know that's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
It's a difference.
And
That's a difference between providing life support for someone in an emergency situation and intentionally causing the death of another person.
Do you think removing the ventilator in that example, do you think that's intentionally killing a human?
No, because you're not intending to kill the individual. You're simply withdrawing care. So the intention of abortion is to kill another individual. Right? It's that's very different than the intention of putting someone on a ventilator is to save them.
Right. If someone were to come up who was, pro-abortion rights, and they said, well, my intent isn't really to kill the child, I just want to stop the child from being in my care. So I want to remove the child. And if you want to raise the child, maybe technology advances and they can raise a child outside the womb. Would you support
I don't,
that sort of situation?
No, because there's a completely different scenario because
Okay.
of the fact that when you as an individual engage in sexual activity, you are responsible for the action that could bring about life. And so the intentional the intentional killing of a life that you create upon any definition is murder.
So it sounds like it's not just the murder side of it, but it sounds like you're also have a moral responsibility to the life that's created. You're saying as well. It sounds like there's two reasons there.
So like my right to bodily autonomy to swing my arm stops at your face,
Right.
right? And so I have the right to freely exercise me swinging my arm, but I don't have the right to intentionally or even unintentionally
Right.
cause harm to you.
Okay, I gotcha. So this unborn child in the womb
Yes.
should have these rights, and that's just based on the same kind of rights that
Yeah, it's
anyone
simple.
would have. Okay.
We all have human rights. All humans have human rights. Unborn children are biologically human and living, therefore they have equal rights under the law. Under not even the law. I mean, just because and this is the problem that we get in. So 150 years ago, this court behind me used to think that certain classes, other humans, based on the melanin content of their skin,
Right.
didn't have inherent value. So rights are inalienable, meaning that regardless of whether they're recognized or not by an outside force, there is an overarching morality that governs society. That So I don't believe that human rights are and values are a convention, human convention. I believe that they have they all human rights come from a divine creator.
Oh, from a divine creator? Okay. Is that... sorry, I don't want to keep you too much
No
longer,
problem.
but
It's okay.
I'm really interested in...
Yeah.
Are there ever situations where you see that maybe we should remove some rights from people?
No, not innocent people, right?
Not innocent.
So rights can be my rights can be I can give my rights away by basically that's what the justice system is about. Like if you care about human rights, then if I care about women, I have to protect them from being raped, right? So me intentionally causing harm, I have given up my rights to not be imprisoned or not be jailed for that, not to have punishment for. So in other words, there's a moral law that we all, a moral standard by which is ingrained in our justice system, and by that law, we not only value life, but then we actually punish people who break this moral code.
I gotcha. So we all start with these rights, and you said they're from a creator.
Yeah, sure. So like, Nazi Germany, right? They dismembered Jews, or not dismembered. My abortion rhetoric is. Sorry.
That's all right.
They gassed Jews in Auschwitz, because they viewed certain classes of humans as not valuable. So I would say that either rights come from God or they're a societal convention. If they're a societal convention, then we shouldn't have any problem with what Nazi Germany did, because they were just determining their own morality.
Right.
So, but we all innately, I believe it's because we have the image of God within us, we know this moral code that is ingrained in every single one of us, by which we even judge nations on that practice. So the unbeliever, the atheist, has a moral dilemma, because they want to hold that rights and rape and murder are universally a human code that we should all abide by. But then the ideology, in one sense, militates against that, because there is no, in a cosmic, if we're just a cosmic accident, if we're just stardust, there is no moral.
You don't see that foundation.
That we have to
Gotcha.
apply to across the board. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the conversation. Do you have any other questions or anything?
No.
Or thoughts? Awesome.
I appreciate the
thanks
conversation.
for the time.
Yeah. Take care of yourself.
Appreciate that. I'll grab that from you. And can I get your spelling too?
Yeah.
if you don't mind?
AJ